Chapter 1 Ruin. In the Su mansion, everyone was in a festive mood, because today, the daughter of the head of the Su family, Su Bei, was finally getting married to her beloved fiancé, Du Luo. The reflection in the mirror showed her finely carved features. She was like a masterpiece drawn by God on a canvas. She was wearing a strapless wedding dress that enhanced her collarbones and made them more eye-catching. The carefully tailored wedding dress hugged her slender figure tightly, and its beautiful full-length ruffles made the 18-year-old Su Bei look more feminine. In S country, the legal age to get married was 18. So after her 18th birthday, Su Bei decided to marry Du Luo, the man she had loved for several years. Although she had drunk a lot at her bridal shower last night, she still got up early to freshen up. The day was breaking, and the sky was just turning bright outside as the sun was beginning to rise slowly from the east. "Miss Bei, everything is ready now. It's still early. Why don't you rest for a while? We will come back for your makeup in 2 hours," suggested the staff who was helping her dress up with a smile. "Okay." Su Bei looked at the dark circles under her eyes in the mirror and nodded. She still felt a little groggy, because she drank too much last night. So she picked up the glass on the table and drank 2 mouthfuls of water. When the staff left, a maid came in with a pot of bird's nest soup and put it in front of Su Bei. Su Bei filled a small bowl with the soup and gulped down 2 mouthfuls of it. Maybe because she drank too much wine last night, the tip of her tongue was bitter. The soup tasted a little strange to her. After finishing the soup in the small bowl, she didn't eat more. She just sat on the sofa and closed her eyes. A few minutes later, the door of her room was gently pushed open, and someone came in quietly. Su Bei didn't fall asleep. She secretly half-opened her eyes and glanced around. She found out that the person who came in was Su Huixian, her half-sister. Su Bei's stepmother was the one who had broken her parents' marriage, so she despised her stepmother and Su Huixian. She had never bothered to get along with them, so she wondered what Su Huixian was doing in her room right now. Su Huixian took a quick glance at the empty bowl. Her mouth curved into a wicked smile as she lowered her head to look at Su Bei. "Su Bei, do you really think you can marry Du Luo? I am the real daughter of the head of the Su family. You will never know what is in this bowl of bird's nest soup, but I will make sure that you enjoy your wedding night in advance." She then took out her phone and dialed a number. "Are the 2 bodyguards I have arranged especially for Su Bei ready? Tell them to come here now." Su Bei opened her eyes wide in shock upon hearing what Su Huixian had said. She knew that Su Huixian had never liked her, but she didn't expect that Su Huixian was this vicious. It seemed that Su Huixian wanted to drug her and found someone to rape her. Such a vicious woman. Su Bei stood up and sneered. Su Huixian heard some movements, so she turned around. Seeing Su Bei standing in front of her, she took a few steps back. You are not asleep? Su Huixian, it must have been very hard for you to pretend to be a good daughter in the Su family for a long time. Do you feel comfortable now that you have finally taken off your mask?" Su Bei said with a hint of mockery in her cold eyes. "I don't understand what you mean." Su Huixian's face turned deathly pale. She was so scared to be exposed that her nails dug into her palms, and she couldn't dare to meet Su Bei's eyes. Su Bei grabbed Su Huixian's wrist. She was taller than Su Huixian, so she blocked the way, not giving Su Huixian a chance to run away. Chapter 2. Chapter 2 Enough is enough. Su Bei used her other hand to pinch Su Huixian's chin, forcing her to open her mouth wide. There was a rare coldness in Su Bei's lazy voice when she said, "No matter what's in this soup, it's yours now." She then let go of Su Huixian's wrist, picked up the pot of bird's nest soup, and poured it into Su Huixian's mouth. Su Huixian struggled desperately, shaking her head. But she couldn't break free from Su Bei's grip, so she had no other choice but to let Su Bei shove the bird's nest soup into her mouth indiscriminately. "I didn't. Su Bei, you, let go of me." Su Huixian was choking and coughing non-stop. With a pitiful look on her face, she shook her head vigorously. The door suddenly opened, and a handsome man strode in. Seeing the scene, he immediately grabbed Su Bei's wrist and pulled her away from Su Huixian. He was utterly surprised. "Su Bei, what are you doing?" "Du Luo, you're just in time. Su Huixian put some drugs in the bird's nest soup. She has also asked some bodyguards to rape me. Good thing I've seen through her soon. Now, I am letting her eat up the bird's nest soup," Su Bei replied calmly. A trace of contempt was visible in her beautiful eyes. The gentle look on Du Luo's face changed when he heard what Su Bei said. "Is it true? Su Huixian shook her head pitifully. No, it isn't. How can I do such a thing? Su Bei, I know that you don't like me, and I can tolerate that. But how can you frame such a vicious thing against me? Mr. Luo, I really didn't do that. Looking at her pitiful face, Du Luo felt a little sorry for Su Huixian. He then turned to Su Bei and said, Su Bei, you are already the precious daughter of the head of the Su family. No one can take that position from you. Why do you have to do this to Huixian? Du Luo's words sounded so harsh in Su Bei's ears, and she also felt uneasy upon hearing him calling her half-sister only Huixian. When did they become so close? Are you suspecting that I am deliberately framing her? She asked, looking at Du Luo in disbelief. It's okay for you to be willful at times, but you have to know that there are things you can't just joke about, Du Luo said to Su Bei. He then looked at Su Huixian with pity in his eyes and added, Huixian always puts up with you, but enough is enough. Su Bei stared at Du Luo's handsome face. Seeing his self-righteous look, she felt so ridiculous. She then asked in a sarcastic tone, You believe her instead of me? Du Luo turned his face sideways, his fists clenching in his pockets. He didn't answer her question. What is going on here? Why are you fighting again? Su Xingfu, Su Bei's father, and his wife Su Jiqin rushed into the room together. Su Huixian immediately threw herself into Su Jiqin's arms and cried aggrievedly, Mom, I really didn't drug Su Bei. I also did not find someone to rape her. How could I do such a thing to her? The expression on Su Jiqin's face slightly changed. Su Bei, there may be some sort of misunderstanding here, right? I've heard everything she said with my own ears. She even called someone to tell the bodyguards to come to my room. How can it be a misunderstanding? Su Bei said. Su Huixian cried bitterly. How can I do such a heartless thing and ruin your life? Doing such a thing will also ruin my own life. Do you think I am not afraid of being in jail? Su Jiqin's voice was full of pain when she said, Hubby, I believe that Huixian will never do such a thing. But since it seems that we can't reconcile them, we'd better get to the bottom of this and settle their differences soon. Chapter 3. Chapter 3, Losing Everyone's Trust. Su Xingfu waved his big hand and ordered, Call the family doctor over to check what's in the bird's nest soup. He knew that his two daughters had never gotten along. Su Bei, the daughter of his first wife, was the spoiled one, while Su Huixian, the daughter of his second wife, was more tolerant. Only with solid evidence could they solve this conflict. The family doctor soon arrived with professional tools and began examining the soup. Huixian, give me your phone, Su Xingfu added. Su Bei knocked it to the ground. I haven't touched it until now. Su Huixian cried pitifully. Su Xingfu picked up the phone from the ground and opened the call log. It showed that a call had been made around 10 minutes ago, and the time matched what Su Bei had claimed. Su Bei took a sideways glance at the call log. She wanted to see how Su Huixian could deny it with this solid evidence. Su Xingfu dialed the unknown number that the call had been made to. Soon an automated voice said, Please press 1 for balance inquiries and press 2 for the payment. Su Bei's pretty face darkened. How could this be? Just now, Su Huixian had called someone right in front of her eyes and asked some bodyguards to come over to rape her. But she had snatched the phone away before Su Huixian could finish her words. Therefore, it was impossible for the call log to have been tampered with. However, the call log clearly proved that the last call had been made to the telecommunications company. Everyone looked at Su Bei with suspicion and disappointment. Su Huixian cried bitterly, as if she had suffered a great grievance. Su Bei clenched her fists tightly. How could it be? Something didn't add up. Fortunately, the family doctor could be trusted, so she turned to him and asked, Dr. Wen, what have you found? Miss Bei, there is nothing strange in the bird's nest soup, Dr. Wen replied softly. But it tasted strange when I ate it. And Su Huixian even admitted that she drugged it. Back then, Su Huixian had spoken in such a cold tone that the memory was clearly etched in Su Bei's mind. There's really nothing strange in it, Miss Bei, Dr. Wen emphasized again. Su Bei, I told you, I've never wanted to hurt you. Su Huixian still looked aggrieved, immediately gaining sympathy from everyone who saw her. Du Luo also looked at her gently to comfort her. Compared with Su Bei, who was poised and elegant even in this situation, Su Huixian looked pitiful. Finally, an idea flashed through Su Bei's mind. She suddenly understood everything. From the beginning, there had been no drug in the soup. Su Huixian had pretended to make that phone call. She had orchestrated the whole situation to trick Su Bei into accusing her, so that when the truth was revealed, Su Bei would be unable to defend herself and would lose everyone's trust. Turning around to look at her father, Su Bei explained anxiously, "Dad, I know what's going on. Su Huixian did all this on purpose to." Before Su Bei could finish, Su Xingfu slapped her across the face. Everyone was slightly shocked by the slap. The atmosphere turned awkward and uncomfortable. Su Huixian, who was standing behind Su Xingfu, raised her chin and flashed a triumphant smile at Su Bei. However, Su Bei was not in the mood to look at Su Huixian. She covered her burning cheek and looked at her father in disbelief. Chapter 4. Going straight to the Civil Affairs Bureau. Su Bei looked at her father, who had always been nice to her and had never hurt her. Su Xingfu's face turned livid with anger. "Su Bei, I know that you've always had a grudge against Huixian, but I never expected that you'd come up with such a vicious plan to frame her and destroy her image in my heart. It's all my fault. I'm the one who always coddled you and let you become so devious." He had lost all his trust in Su Bei. Covering her burning cheek, Su Bei looked at Du Luo, hoping that at least he would believe her. Today he was her groom, so he would certainly believe her. Du Luo. Before she could finish her words, however, she was interrupted by Du Luo. His gentle face was serious at the moment, and his mellow eyes had turned cold. He said in a heavy voice, "Su Bei, you've really disappointed me." He looked at Su Bei ruthlessly, as if he was looking at a stranger. But when he turned to Su Huixian, his eyes filled with intense sympathy and pity. Su Bei was shocked by his words. Although she was angry, she couldn't help but find the situation ridiculous and suddenly laughed out loud. How had she become the target of public criticism today? She had never cared much about Su Zhiqin and Su Huixian before. In her eyes, Su Zhiqin was a home wrecker, so naturally, she had hated the mother and daughter, and everybody knew it. Nevertheless, she had always thought that it was beneath her to set them up. But today, those two women had not only set her up, but they had also gained sympathy from Su Xingfu and Du Luo. At this moment, what broke Su Bei's heart the most was not the scheming minds of Su Zhiqin and Su Huixian, but the distrust of her own father and fiancé. From the beginning, they had let their feelings cloud their judgment. They had labeled Su Bei as the troublemaker in their hearts. They had wanted evidence just to help them confirm their doubts. Su Bei had always thought that she was the real daughter of the head of the Su family, and that she would one day become a part of the Du family as Du Luo's wife. But now, she realized how ridiculous it all was. No one believed her or cared about her at all. Su Bei finally stopped laughing. "Du Luo, you've disappointed me too," she said plainly with a snort. She picked up the scissors on the table and cut through the hem of her wedding dress. Then, she suddenly tore up the dress and threw it on the ground. Du Luo's eyes darkened. "What are you doing, Su Bei? This is exactly what you want, isn't it?" Su Bei usually looked bright-eyed, but now, her eyes were dim and watery. She walked back to her room with heavy steps. Then, she took her suitcase and went downstairs. "Sir, Miss Bei wants to leave home." A maid rushed over to Su Xingfu and reported the news. "Don't mind her." Su Xingfu was really angry. He thought he should teach his daughter a lesson. However, Du Luo's eyes turned anxious. Just when he turned to chase after Su Bei, Su Huixian let out a groan and fainted. "What's wrong with you, Huixian? Don't scare me," Su Zhiqin cried out loud. Du Luo stopped and hurried back to Su Huixian. Su Xingfu also took Su Huixian into his arms anxiously. Su Bei looked back as she reached the door. After seeing what her father and Du Luo were doing, she walked out of the Su family without hesitation. With all her luggage, she drove straight to the Civil Affairs Bureau. Chapter 5. Finding a man she liked. Today was May 20th. In this country, this date represented love. So many couples chose to register for marriage on this day. Su Bei had been worried that the Civil Affairs Bureau would get crowded today. Afraid that she couldn't register for marriage today, she had asked a servant to take the ID cards and every other type of document that was needed to the Civil Affairs Bureau before it opened. This way, she and Du Luo could get their marriage licenses as soon as possible. But now that she wanted to leave home, she had to go there and take her ID card back first. Su Bei began to feel a little uncomfortable on her way to the Civil Affairs Bureau, as if her body was on fire. This feeling was a little alien to her. It suddenly occurred to her that she must have been drugged by Su Huixian after all. What was more, The effect of the drug was very powerful. If Su Huixian hadn't put the drug in the edible bird's nest, then she must have put it somewhere else. Su Bei had washed up in the morning, and she had also drunk some water. Therefore, there had been a lot of opportunities for Su Huixian to drug her. But even if the medicine took effect now, it would be useless for her to seek justice for herself. She knew that both her father and Du Luo would think that it was just another trick to protect herself. She had never realized that Su Huixian could be so calculating that she would set a trap for her this way. Su Bei was a righteous and honest person, so she was no match for someone as cunning as Su Huixian. By the time she arrived at the Civil Affairs Bureau, she felt weak all over. Her small face was flushed a deep pink color and was covered with a layer of sweat. She slightly blinked, revealing her watery eyes. After finding the servant of the Su family, Su Bei finally got her ID card back. "Miss Bei, this is Mr. Luo's ID card." Su Bei gave him a small smile. "You can return it to him yourself." Just the thought of Du Luo sent a chill to her heart, so she was very reluctant to touch his things. The strange feeling in her body slowly became more and more overpowering. It seemed that Su Huixian had been determined to make her lose her virginity today. But to Su Bei it was no big deal. Today, she had lost almost everything. She had lost her father's love, as well as her fiancé's. Now, she had nothing left to lose. Since she was doomed to lose her virginity, she decided to at least find a man she liked to do the job. She looked around the Civil Affairs Bureau. At that moment, a man suddenly walked into the door. He was dressed in a well-tailored suit that enhanced his tall and straight figure. It was as if a light shone down on him from above, making him look impeccable. The man's presence lit up Su Bei's bleak world in the blink of an eye. He was followed by another man, who leaned in and said in a low voice, "Mr. Lu, she didn't come." "Then you can tell her that she doesn't need to come here anymore," Lu Heading said calmly. But his words gave people a kind of invisible pressure. After saying that, he turned around to leave, but Su Bei had already stood in front of him. As soon as she had heard that this man's bride hadn't shown up, she had decided that he was the chosen one. Being stopped by an unfamiliar woman in front of him, Lu Heading lowered his eyes to look at her face. The woman's face was as red as an apple, and her long black eyelashes were fluttering. She was enchanting and lovely. He looked at her with a frown, as if he was thinking about something. "Sir, it seems that your bride didn't show up. In that case, I have a little favor to ask you," the woman said shyly. Her young voice was filled with energy. "A little favor? Do you know who I am?" Lu Heading asked as he looked at her upturned face. "Of course I do. You are Lu Weijian's driver. I've met you twice when you picked him up," Su Bei said with a charming look on her face. Just now, she had overheard the part about his bride not showing up, but she hadn't overheard his title Mr. Lu. Chapter 6, Doing It with Licenses. Driver? Did he look like a driver? With brows slightly furrowed, the handsome Lu Heading lowered his eyes and looked at the young woman's smiling face. Su Bei chuckled softly and said, "But based on your appearance, you should be the CEO. It's really a waste that you're only a driver." Lu Heading raised his eyebrows, and the corners of his mouth curved into a faint smile. A hint of interest flashed across his eyes. "Why me?" It was so rare for Lu Heading to have such patience. "Because you are the most pleasing to the eye here." Su Bei staggered. It was as if she was so drunk that she was about to faint. Lu Heading's eyes narrowed. The young woman seemed drunk, but he couldn't smell alcohol from her body. Obviously, someone had done something to her. But she had good taste because she came to him. So can I. The effect of the drug on Su Bei's body had already reached its peak. All she wanted right now was to sleep with this man in front of her. But even if he was only a driver, she still had to make him agree in a respectful manner. "Okay, I agree." Lu Heading took the ID card and the signed marriage application form from her hand. He then handed them over to the assistant behind him. "Go ahead." The assistant was stunned for a moment before taking them. After 5 minutes, 2 copies of marriage licenses were delivered to Lu Heading. He took them, picked Su Bei up, and carried her in his arms. He then walked out with his long and strong legs and put her into his Bentley. "Let's go home," Lu Heading said to the driver. He then pulled the partition between the front seat and the back seat. Su Bei, who was still in his arms, looked really bad, so he had to do something immediately. With the marriage licenses in his hand, a hint of interest flashed through his eyes. He seemed to like what had happened just now. 2 hours later, Sube was still deep asleep in Liu Heading's arms. Although his desire hadn't been satisfied, he didn't force it anymore. Now that they had gotten their marriage licenses, they had a lot of time to do this again. It had been 2 hours, but Liu Heading noticed that they hadn't reached the Liu family's villa yet. He lifted up the partition and asked the driver, "What's the matter?" "Mr. Liu, there's a road accident ahead, and the road is blocked. We can't get through. There are too many cars behind us as well, so we can't move back," reported the driver. Liu Heading lowered the partition again and looked down at Sube in his arms. Her eyes were closed, and there were tears in the corners of her eyes. She was crying just now. Such a fragile young woman. He checked her ID card. She was only 18 years old. It meant that she had just turned into an adult and reached the marriageable age of S country. No wonder, although she looked so stubborn and pretended to be familiar with love affairs, she still shed tears in the process. While Liu Heading was sizing up Sube's little face with great interest, his phone suddenly vibrated. He had a phone call, and it obviously disturbed her sleep because her body moved. He gently put her down, afraid of waking her up. Then he got out of the car and answered his phone. At this moment, the entire overpass was packed. Since they were stuck, many people got out of their cars to smoke and chat. So Liu Heading's move wasn't obtrusive. Sube was awakened when he got out of the car. She looked around, wondering where she could be. Then she sat up, rubbed her eyes, and recalled everything that happened in a daze. In the Civil Affairs Bureau, she had stopped Liu Heading, the driver of the Liu family, who she had only met twice before, and had asked him to have sex with her. Was it over now? She softly hissed when she felt pain. It was really not a good experience at all. Chapter 7. Pregnant? When she came to her senses, Sube quickly grabbed her ID card on the seat. As she touched the marriage certificates, she unconsciously opened them and saw her name. The other name next to hers was Liu Heading. That was the driver of Liu Group's young master. She had truly got the marriage certificates with him. Sube looked at the two names side by side in utter shock. She had only meant to sleep with him once, but he must have gotten the idea she wanted this for the rest of her life. Regretful, Sube wrapped a strand of hair around her finger, wishing she could slap herself. Is Liu Heading out of his mind? Staring at the marriage certificates, Sube continued. Anyway, this isn't all his fault. I said something at the Civil Affairs Bureau that made him think I wanted this. But I don't have the right state of mind to get married, or the confidence to make a relationship work. I don't know what to do to get other people's trust in me. Sorry, Liu Heading, she thought. She quickly put her ID card in her pocket, but didn't dare to touch the two certificates beside it again. Realizing the car was parked on an overpass, she looked out of the window and saw the man's back. The sun slowly rose, covering his tall and strong figure, as if he had a special light around him. Without any hesitation, she opened the door and got out of the car. Then she made her way through the crowd and other vehicles, quickly disappearing in the distance. Since the overpass was congested with cars and angry people, naturally, no one noticed where that tall and fragile girl had gone. Afterward, Sube went straight to the airport, where she bought an air ticket and flew to the United States. The first thing she did once she arrived there was to draft a divorce agreement and a commission for the attorney who would take care of it. Then she sent the papers to her best friend and asked her to forward them to Liu Heading of Liu Group. She didn't think she could handle a marriage or any kind of relationship now and refused to restrain Liu Heading with the marriage. As long as he signed the divorce agreement and submitted it, everything would be fine. Such a short marriage could be treated as if it never happened to him. However, for months later, Sube found herself pregnant. Everything had happened so quickly after her escape that she hadn't considered taking a morning after pill. At the time, Sube hadn't thought she would have a baby. Since her period wasn't regular, and she had chronic gastritis, she didn't pay much attention to her symptoms. She thought all the discomfort she felt was caused by her stomach disease. It was not until her symptoms worsened that she went to the hospital and found she was a few months pregnant already. Once Sube got the examination report, her pretty face fell, and her heart turned into a mess. She closed her eyes then, and suddenly her mind was filled with images of Liu Heading's face. As she opened her eyes again, Sube reread the examination report carefully and confirmed she was indeed pregnant. How could a woman unable to maintain a relationship get along well with a child? Sube's eyelashes fluttered weakly as she thought about what to do. Clenching her hands, she finally decided that the best solution was to have an abortion. The baby is already a few months old. We can't operate you anymore. You can't have the abortion here. I'm sorry, Miss Sue, it's impossible. Besides, you're expecting twins. Are you sure that's what you want to do? These were twins. Was she really considering killing them? Sue-Bei closed her beautiful eyes, trying to hide her sadness every time she had to hear those kinds of responses. A few months later, in a hospital in the United States, Sue-Bei entered the delivery room. By the time she opened her weak eyes, she met the doctor's regretful gaze as he said, "Miss Sue, one of the children was seriously ill. We've done our best, but..." A mix of joy and sadness took over Sue-Bei's heart. She had never felt so torn in her life. Chapter 8. Giving the child back to his father. 5 years later, Sue-Bei had just arrived at the Jingdu airport. With her chestnut hair hung over her shoulders, the woman in a beige long coat and high heels looked at the strange yet familiar clouds in the sky while holding a suitcase. She was only 18 when she left. Now that she came back, she was already 23. Her previous baby face, however, had grown mature and more beautiful with time. A 4-year-old boy in a formal suit could be seen accompanying her. Judged by his stern little face, one could assume he would become a handsome man in the future. Pursing his thin lips, he followed closely behind Sue-Bei as she walked. "Dabao Xiaobei." A woman suddenly rushed over and hugged Sue-Bei. At the sight of her old best friend, Lin Moli, Sue-Bei held her back. Releasing her friend, Lin Moli couldn't wait to lower her head to look at Dabao. She then said in astonishment, "Xiaobei, your boy is even more handsome in person than in the video." "Of course. He's my son, after all," Sue-Bei answered with a smile. "Good to see you, Mommy Moli." Dabao looked up at Lin Moli and greeted her politely before resuming his cold demeanor. Lin Moli gave him a thumbs up and said, "Nice. Keep up with the little CEO's attitude." Dabao smiled briefly in response, and then once again, his poker face was back on. Lin Moli couldn't help but shake her head, feeling sorry for her friend. Sue-Bei should have had twins, but unfortunately, the other baby was born with an illness and didn't make it. If only that child had survived. With a smile, Sue-Bei couldn't help but remember Lu Heading's face every time she looked at her son. At such a young age, Dabao already resembled his father a lot, even in his manners. However, the man was just a driver for the Lu family, not a CEO. Wanting to give the mother and son a nice reception, Lin Moli took them to a buffet restaurant. Since Dabao was wise enough to pick up his food by himself, Sue-Bei didn't have to accompany the boy. As soon as Lin Moli sat at the table, she whispered to her friend, "Are you really going to give the child back to his father?" "I have no choice." Then she raised her voice again and added, "As his father, he's the most suitable person to take care of Dao Bao until he grows up." "Is there really no cure for your disease?" Lin Moli asked worriedly. "I have advanced gastric cancer. I only have a year left. I don't want to waste time on useless treatments. I'll try my best to earn as much money as possible this year, so that father and son can live happily for the rest of their lives." A faint smile appeared on the corner of her lips as if for a brief moment, she had forgotten the sadness her condition brought her. Although she seemed calm on the surface, no one knew the pain she had been carrying inside. For an instant, Lin Moli didn't know what to say, so she silently put a bowl of porridge in front of her before speaking again. "I had sent him the divorce agreement as you said back then. I don't know if he is married or not nowadays. That's why I want you to help me take care of Dao Bao for the next few days. I need to find out more about him. If he has remarried or has a child, I won't disturb him anymore. But if he doesn't have anyone, and is willing to take responsibility for our son, I still need to make sure he's not a terrible man. After all, Dabao will have to live with him for so many years." Before she came back, Sue-Bei had already thought about everything. "Of course, leave Dabao to me. I don't have a job now anyway, so I have plenty of time," Li Moli assured her and then handed her a bunch of keys. "I've bought the house you asked for." It should be highlighted that Sue-Bei was actually misdiagnosed with advanced gastric cancer. Chapter 9. Meeting a driver also needed an appointment. Sue-Bei had worked as a model in the United States for many years and made some money. Now, she spent all her money on this house in order to secure the life of her son Dabao. She knew that Lu Heading was just a driver. It would be a heavy burden for him to bear the responsibility of being a father when he was totally unprepared. That was why she had to get everything ready earlier on her own. After the meal, Su-Bei said goodbye to her son. She squatted in front of him and kissed him on the forehead. Dabao reached out his hand and patted her head. Xiaobei, a girl should know how to protect herself when she works outside. Also, don't work too hard. Lin Molly's eyes twinkled with amusement when she heard this. The two people in front of her didn't act like a mother and a son, but like a father and a daughter. Okay, I will, Su-Bei assured him with a bright smile. Dabao nodded and left with Lin Molly. After that, Su-Bei took a taxi to the new house that she had bought with Lin Molly's help. Without even taking a look at the house or unpacking properly, she just kept her luggage there, changed her clothes, and took another taxi straight to the Lu group. She had met Lu Heading twice before their marriage, both times at a friend's party. One of the guests had been a man called Lu Weijian, who was said to be from the Lu group. After getting too drunk, he had asked his driver to pick him up. And both times, the driver who came to pick him up was Lu Heading. Since Lu Heading's temperament was unique and different from other drivers' dispositions, Su-Bei had noticed him at a glance. She wasn't familiar with Lu Weijian, so she couldn't ask him about his driver. Therefore, she decided to go to the Lu group in person to find Lu Heading. She walked elegantly into the building in her high-heeled shoes. When she arrived at the reception desk, she asked politely, "Excuse me, may I see Lu Heading? If I'm not wrong, he works for Mr. Lu Weijian." "I'm sorry, miss. You can't meet him without an appointment." The receptionist took a look at the woman in front of her and found that she was beautiful. Therefore, she chose to act very polite, but she didn't dare to break the company's rules. Su-Bei was taken aback by her response. Did meeting a driver also need an appointment? The Lu Group was really an extraordinary company. Su-Bei had no choice but to ask, "Then can I make an appointment now?" "Of course. I will inform you of the result in about 15 days. The receptionist replied politely. 15 days? What kind of driver was he? Why was there so much of a build-up just to meet him? Su-Bei couldn't wait that long. But she didn't have Lu Heading's phone number or address. She didn't know where else to find him except at the Lu Group. So she relented. "Okay then. Please make an appointment for me." "Thank you. By the way, is there any other way I can contact him or see him?" The receptionist was used to hearing this, because many people wanted to see Lu Heading as soon as possible. Without skipping a beat, she smiled politely and said, "Sorry, but no." But in her heart she scoffed and thought, "Mr. Lu is not a person who is easy to meet. These women are getting bolder and bolder. Do they think they can get anything just because of their beauty? Otherwise, why would they come to make an appointment?" Su-Bei had no choice but to leave and wait for the result. "I have already known that the Lu Group is one of the most powerful companies in Jingdu City. 5 years ago, I was able to meet the young master of the Lu Group in person. But now, I can't even see a driver of the group. I didn't expect that. Things have really changed over the past 5 years." Su-Bei thought secretly. Suddenly, she saw a car pull up to the entrance. The window of the driver's seat was rolled down, and the car was moving very slowly, which gave Su-Bei enough time to see the driver's face, that same familiar and handsome face that she had come here to see. Chapter 10. Why had she come back? As the car passed her, Su-Bei recognized the man who was sitting in the driver's seat. It was her husband, Lu Heading. It seemed that he was more mature than 5 years ago, and even at a glance, his temperament seemed to be calmer and wiser than before. She had always known that he had a handsome face, but she had never thought that even his side profile would look this good. His sharp jawline looked perfect. "Lu Heading!" she cried out without thinking. Hearing this, the man turned his head sideways and shot her a cold glance. But then he turned back to the front and continued to step on the accelerator without looking at her anymore. The car quickly moved forward. In just a moment, he had already put considerable distance between him and Su-Bei. Su-Bei immediately snapped into action and ran after Lu Heading's car. "Lu Heading! Lu Heading! Please stop the car!" she shouted. But the car was moving so fast that she was left far behind in the blink of an eye. Looking at the cloud of dust caused by the car, Su-Bei bent down in frustration and gasped heavily with her hands on her knees. She was sure that the man had seen her, but he had completely ignored her. "Doesn't he remember me? Well, it's possible," Su-Bei murmured to herself. "After all, that special time we had shared happened 5 years ago. After that, our paths have never crossed again." But for the sake of her son, Su-Bei had no other choice but to meet Lu Heading somehow. In the car, Lu Heading hesitated for a moment, but he still kept driving. Was it an auditory hallucination? Was it because he missed her so much that he often had such uncontrollable illusions? Liu Heading raised his head and rubbed the space between his eyebrows. It was not until he saw the reflection in the rearview mirror that he realized that it was not a dream. On that fateful day, this woman had floated to him like a beautiful cloud. After disappearing for 5 years, she had finally appeared in front of him, like a lovely elf. If the 2 marriage certificates didn't exist, proving that the woman was real, he would have thought that he had just imagined the whole thing in his head. A faint smile appeared at the corners of his mouth. That day, the girl had hurried to ask him for help, and he had helped her in the car. Then he had answered a phone call for a few minutes. In that gap, she had left without saying goodbye and disappeared without a trace. A few days later, she had even sent him the divorce agreement. From beginning to end, everything had been under her control. That divorce agreement had caused him a great deal of heartache. So for the past 5 years, he had never asked anyone about her whereabouts. He had forced himself not to look for her. But now she was back. Yes, it seemed that she was. After moving forward for a while, Liu Heading suddenly slammed on the brake, leaving skid marks on the road. The car had almost crashed into the fence, and he could smell the smoke from the tires. He opened the car door and got out quickly. Then, he turned around and ran to the place where he had seen Su-Bei just now, his long legs making his every step powerful. Just when he was about to reach the destination, Liu Heading slackened his pace. He regained his usual calmness, but he still couldn't hide his anxiety. Why had she come back this time? What did she want to say to him? Did she regret her actions back then? However, when Liu Heading finally reached that place, he found that the woman had disappeared without a trace, as if she was never there at all. It was as if history had repeated itself. Liu Heading knew that this woman wouldn't stay for him. So why had she come back? Chapter 11. Finding a mother for the child. Liu Heading trudged back to his car. He sat in the driver's seat with his eyes closed for a long time, before he finally calmed down. The sudden sound of his phone ringing interrupted his train of thought. He picked up the phone and said in a hoarse voice, "Mom." In a fancy restaurant, the elegant Mrs. Liu looked at her son's long face and asked worriedly, "What happened?" "Nothing." Liu Heading lowered his head and cut the steak carefully, but his movements were sometimes interrupted by his stagnant thoughts. He was completely absent-minded. His mother smiled and said, "That's good. I know you only care about the company and the kid. By the way, one of my friend's daughters is a nice girl. She just came back from abroad. She is well-educated and reasonable. She is a good person. You should meet her. Even if not for yourself, then at least for the child. The kid needs a mother." "Mom, I've told you that I already have a wife." Liu Heading put down his knife and tried to be patient. His mother nodded and compromised. Yes. Her name is Su-Bei, right? She went abroad to study after marrying you 5 years ago. But she hasn't come back at all during the past 5 years, right? She just got a marriage certificate with you. Apart from that, it's like she doesn't belong to this world at all. Your old grandmother might have been happy to hear that you got married. But do you think that I will also believe your story?" Liu Heading pressed his lips into a straight line and didn't say anything. "My words might upset you, but as your mother, it's my duty to tell you these things. 5 years ago, your grandmother was seriously ill. Her greatest wish was to see you settle down, and you gave her what she wanted. But she has recovered now. You can't continue to live in a fantasy. That woman called Su-Bei hasn't come back for 5 years. Even if she really exists, you can't wait for her for a lifetime. Son, listen to me. Just move on. Even if you don't need a woman by your side, your baby needs a mother." Liu Heading gave the steak he had cut to his mother and said, "Mom, eat the food please. I have something to deal with in the company." Then he stood up abruptly and walked out of the restaurant. When he was outside, he suddenly stopped and squinted his eyes at the people walking past him. For a moment, he felt as if he had seen Su-Bei among the crowd. But the very next second, she seemed to have vanished into thin air. Though Su-Bei hadn't been able to meet Liu Heading, she had to focus on participating in the company's event first. She had worked as a model in the United States. Because of the natural advantage that her tall frame and long legs gave her, as well as her confidence and her professional skills, she had quickly gained a place in the American model circle. However, since she had to take care of her son, her working time was limited, so she hadn't gained much recognition. But now Debao was old enough to go to school, Before returning to S country, she had contacted with KUKU Entertainment Company and signed a 1-year contract with them. Su-bae went straight to the Haoju Hotel. Tonight, she was going to attend a party thrown by a luxury fashion show that was arranged by the company. This party was specially arranged for the models and the judges of the fashion show, so that they could get familiar with each other first. The first round of the test was set to take place in 3 days. If a model didn't perform well at tonight's party, they would not even qualify to take the first round of the test. Only after a model passed both the first and second rounds of the test could they officially become a member of the fashion show. After that, they would be able to earn a considerable amount of money. The party was held at the Haoju Hotel. When Su-bae arrived at the hotel, her agent, Chiu Min-xian, recognized her at a glance. Su-bae had a fairly unique face that set her apart from other women. Her face was small, but it looked cute and exquisite. Chapter 12. Don't give her any opportunity. With her long legs and strong but slender figure, Su-bae was particularly eye-catching in the crowd. Su-bae, come here, Chiu Min-xian called excitedly. You look even more graceful now than when you were on the stage. You're really a treasure. Thank you, Min-xian. I'll count on your care and help in the future, Su-bae said, raising the corners of her delicate red lips into a smile. Of course. You are my model now. Go inside. You should first establish a basic friendship with the interviewers tonight, and try to pass the initial test in a few days. Chiu Min-xian smiled. Su-bae nodded and walked along the red carpet. She had done this before, so she was not anxious at all. She walked in a calm and elegant manner, exuding confidence from every inch of her body. Chiu Min-xian had to wait for the other models that she managed here. A luxurious nanny van stopped in front of Chiu Min-xian, and a sophisticated young woman in a black gown stepped out. She looked like the epitome of femininity, and when she smiled, it seemed to light up everyone's hearts. She was none other than Su Huixian, one of the most famous models in the country. Chiu Min-xian strode forward and greeted her with a warm smile. Huixian, you look very beautiful today. With your temperament, you'll definitely win in the show. Don't say that, Min-xian. Only 5 models will be selected from S country. The rest will be all selected from Europe and America. We must be careful. Su Huixian appeared very modest. Yes, that's why I asked Su-bae, our newcomer, to go in first. We must strive to get another model from our company selected, and she's perfect for it. She has an enviable figure, and looks even more beautiful than she did in the video. Su-bae, your new model is called Su-bae. Su Huixian's face changed slightly. In the 5 years that had passed, she hadn't gotten word about Su-bae at all. Su Xingfu and Du Luo seldom mentioned her, but it was obvious that they still missed her. Nevertheless, Su Huixian did her best to take good care of her father, and she treated Du Luo well. Over time, the 2 men had willingly become her most powerful backup. But now, unexpectedly, Su-bae was back. At the thought of Su-bae's stunning appearance and unmatched figure, Su Huixian couldn't help feeling jealous. In the Su family, Su-bae was like a bright star in the sky, while Su Huixian was just a firefly in the grass. It was only in Su-bae's absence that she had the chance to shine and be seen. Su Huixian opened the photo album in her phone and asked, "Is it her?" Chiu Min-xian nodded. "Yes, that's her." "Huixian, do you already know Su-bae?" A trace of undisguised disgust appeared in Su Huixian's eyes. "Miss Xian, I don't want her to get this opportunity, and I don't want her to have any development in KUKU Entertainment Company." Chiu Min-xian was surprised, but she immediately understood what she had to do. Su-bae had a stunning appearance and a perfect figure for modeling. Her long legs were a great fit for this job. With all that in mind, Chiu Min-xian had planned to turn her into a successful model. However, Su Huixian was the precious daughter of the head of Su family and the fiancée of Du Luo, the young master of the Du family. She was already considered to be a famous model in the country. Therefore, she had seniority over the newcomer Su-bae. Chiu Min-xian had a passion for training any good talent that came her way. But at the end of the day, keeping her job was the most important thing for her. Besides, a model couldn't become famous with just a good figure alone. Meanwhile, at the party, a man in a light-colored suit was standing next to Lu Heading. He excitedly said, "Brother, this is the top show for choosing supermodels." Chapter 13, Ordinary Women. Look over there. Those are all supermodels from Europe and America. The man pointed in another direction and said, And those women there are all new but outstanding supermodels from S country. Liu Heading looked up at him, with an utterly uninterested expression on his face. When can we leave? Are you so unwilling to stay here? I don't get it. What kind of women do you like? You refused highly cultured ladies. You don't like gentle and dignified female doctors. You are not interested in female elites. And you are not bothered to sneak a glance at even the famous actresses. At least one of these supermodels here should be able to attract your attention, right? Liu Weijian asked, throwing his hands up in defeat. If it weren't for Mrs. Liu's request, he wouldn't have brought Liu Heading here to see all these women. In fact, he had no interest in being at this party either. In his eyes, it was better to stay at home and play video games. Why did he have to spend time with this iceberg instead? Liu Heading was not interested in this party at all. The only reason why he hadn't refused the invitation today was because of that woman, who had been relentlessly lingering in his mind. He wanted to find a distraction to help him drive that woman out of his mind. He opened his eyes leisurely and looked in the direction at which Liu Weijian was pointing. What do you think? Aren't they beautiful? Liu Weijian asked excitedly. They're ordinary. Well, is there anyone you like in particular? Liu Weijian asked curiously. If there is, I will help you. At this moment, many of the supermodels standing in front felt a pair of eyes on them and turned around. When they saw Liu Heading's handsome face, they felt flattered and raised their glasses to him. Some of them even ogled at him. They're all ordinary women, Liu Heading said casually with a slight shake of his head. Liu Weijian touched his forehead and sighed. Well, I know that in your heart, the woman on your marriage certificate is the most beautiful woman in the world. No one can compete with her. Even now, he still couldn't believe that his brother had a wife. Well, in that case, I might as well go home and play video games. Do you want to go back with me? Or do you want to stay for a few more minutes? Liu Heading was about to reply when he saw a familiar figure talking and laughing not far away. It was the woman he had seen on the street today, but instead of that thick coat, she was wearing a long dress that outlined her extraordinarily graceful figure. He paused. Taken aback, Liu Weijian looked in the direction of Liu Heading's gaze, only to see several men chatting with glasses of wine in their hands. Liu Heading looked away as if nothing had happened and said, You can go back first. I'll stay a little longer. After his brother left, Liu Heading sat down in a dark corner of the hall. The woman had disappeared from his sight, but he waited patiently. As long as she was here, he would see her sooner or later, right? Most of the judges at the banquet were from Europe and America. They were all whispering amongst themselves, discussing their thoughts about the models present. This party was a good chance for Su Bei, who had stayed in the United States for 5 years, to forge connections and make a good impression. She could speak fluent English and barely communicated in other languages, so she was good at dealing with such a situation. With a glass of wine in hand, she chatted with the others. When she had time to rest, she saw Chiu Minxian walking towards her in a hurry.